back en masse and run it back the way they had it. What are the chances with Howard and with Scott?
Well, I think in Boston's case, yeah, he'll be back. He's restricted. He's a restricted free agent, so they'll probably tender him.
John McMullen, Jody McDonald, your Mac and Mac Birds 365 guys. Thank Barrett Brook for hopping on. Always fun whenever Barrett jumps in with us. And yes, he'll be tuned to the football weekend. I'll be tuned to the football weekend. I'll be on CBS Sports Radio. Yeah, this is, as you mentioned, John, one of the best weeks in the National Football League's calendar every year out. Yeah, it's one of the toughest weekends for me because I got to compete with these damn games. I'm on the air while the games are being played. Yeah, who's listening to the Mac Man on CBS Sports Radio? Nobody. They're all watching the NFL playoffs.
35 million people watching. On the low side, by the way, you'll get to what is the prime time game tomorrow's 49ers Packers. That'll be up in the 40s, 40 million range. And then what's the primetime game on Sunday?
Mahomes against Allen.
Yeah, that'll be up in they might even hit 50 for one of those two.
Yeah, just off the charts ratings numbers. I was going to specific. I was wrong about the schedule. I was right about one thing, wrong about another. Knew that they were going to put the Rams on Sunday because they played the Monday night game.
Monday night.
So I knew the Packers were going
I knew the Packers were Saturday night.
Saturday game. It was a given. Yeah. I thought they'd put them on Saturday afternoon. Maybe it's a Fox.
Because we were talking about that. The Eagles writers were talking about it. If somehow they upset Tampa Bay, we knew we were going to have to get into freaking Wisconsin for a Saturday night game. And that is not the easiest place to get to. So it would have been a nightmare. So logistically, it's not the worst thing.
Now, when you say Saturday night game, I thought it was going to be the Saturday afternoon game because if they're concerned at all, and I don't know that the NFL is, but again, it would be another case of the NFL does whatever the hell it wants because they can. And people are just going to tune in. Those people that would have to sit in the freezing cold of Lambeau Field, we don't need to worry about them. We just got to do what's best for us. And we want to. I thought maybe they try and get that game in on Saturday afternoon while you have some sunlight.
No, it's more
rather than make them sit in sub-zero wind chill factor below zero type numbers.
Yeah,
they don't really care about the people
with Green Bay. They like it, I think, even more because of the history. But we knew because what you said about the Monday night game that team was going to play on Sunday,
and they should.
Then you start to talk about the matchups, and Tennessee is the number one seed. We all kind of knew they were locked into Saturday afternoon because they're not, for better or for worse, they're not high profile. There's no cachet there. It's probably not fair, but and again, everything is relative with the NFL because everybody watches every game. But when you talk about prime time, we saw Rodgers, we saw Mahomes versus potentially Josh Allen. That's when you knew when that shook out, those were going to be the night games, and you knew Green Bay was going to be on Saturday because they were on the bye. So it was pretty easy to predict, but I was really confident Green Bay would be Saturday night because of Aaron Rodgers.
I thought they might put them on Saturday afternoon because they would show some consideration to the people that had.
Well, they definitely don't show any consideration to the people.
Those of you who are planning, and I don't know that there's anyone who's watching Bird 365 right now who's planning on being at Lambeau Field on Saturday. Yeah, you have my condolences because they could.
And the worst part, Jody, was a couple Inquirer photographers were on my flight down to Tampa. And they were panicking more than anybody because they got to be on the field. in Green Bay on Saturday night. So they were panic stricken.
Yeah, at least you guys are sitting in a heated press box. All right, JM, a position we touched on a little bit earlier when I asked you about Miles Sanders, that the Eagles have a decision to make this offseason. Do you talk about a contract extension? If so, what kind of parameters are we doing? The overall league evaluation of running backs and the fact that it has been so de-emphasized, my opinion, overly so that it has become almost an afterthought. And I still think you can win by running the football. Shoot, the Eagles proved it this year. But what they had was a good group of running backs, more than a superstar, bell cow, one running back guy. Well, let me talk about those other two running backs. And we put Kenneth Gainwell aside because he's under contract, because he's young, because you got 7 more years before you actually need to make a decision with him. Boston Scott and Jordan Howard, both free agents. Both were pretty damn good players this year for the Eagles when healthy. Jordan Howard, again, injured, and availability being your most important ability. He is what he is at this stage. The only thing he is 1 year older. Give me your thoughts on both of those guys and the percentage potential that they're back here with the Philadelphia Eagles or somewhere else. What are the Eagles going to be willing to offer those guys if they want to bring the running back room back en masse and run it back the way they had it? What are the chances with Howard and with Scott?
Well, I think in Boston's case, yeah, he'll be back. He's restricted. He's a restricted free agent, so they'll probably tender him at an original round level, which would be his 6th round level. So that won't be much of an issue. I don't think anybody's going to swoop in with an offer sheet or anything of that nature. And then with Jordan Howard, look, I think the Eagles will bring him back on another 1-year deal for the veteran minimum would be my guess. We saw last year there wasn't much interest around the league. I think he's more important here than in any other offense in the NFL, to be honest. I mean, the Eagles are very unique in the way they run. There's only, you could argue, Baltimore, and that's about it. Other teams are looking for different styles of running backs, and Jordan Howard wouldn't be a fit. And Jordan, it was very honest last year. I mean, nobody was calling him. Nobody. And the Eagles said, yeah, we'll give you a shot. And he came back. And I think the same thing will happen this year. So I don't think there's going to be much demand.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but just let me pin you down. He's going to be on the practice squad again?
Well, not necessarily. Remember, as a free agent, you signed a regular contract. So that depends on what the rules are going to be. Are we getting off the COVID practice squad? Are we back to normal? Is it going to be 12? If we're back to normal, you're not even going to be able to put veterans on the practice squad. So that depends on the rules, and that'll be decided down the road. The Eagles took advantage of those rules. Jordan, I talked about it in training camp. Jordan deserved to make this football team. But because of COVID-19, because they had these tweaked rules, you could afford to put a veteran player like Jordan Howard on the practice squad. If you can't do it next year, it's a more difficult decision. You got to carry him if he deserves to make the team. But, you also want to get better at the position. So they might draft a running back, not the 1st round, but maybe in the 2nd, maybe in the 3rd round. So you got to see what's in here as well. But one of the things Howie Roseman, and might as well get people mad at me today, the Eagles don't have any free agents, I mean 0, that you will wring your hands about potentially losing. 0. They locked up all their key guys that they wanted to. And the free agents you're talking, the high-profile free agents, Jody, Anthony Harris, Derek Barnett, Steve Nelson, Rodney McLeod. You could argue Jordan Howard. That's it. I mean, you'd like to have some of them back, but you're not going to lose any sleep if you don't get any of them back.
And out of that group of the guys that you just ran down, you're right. There's no, oh my God, we have to get them re-signed guys on that list. Out of that group that you just ran down, though, Steven Nelson, easily the guy that I want to bring back most. More so than any of the others.
But
not even close.
I would agree that he's the best of the group from a playing standpoint. But then again, Jody, 15, 16, 19. If you're taking a cornerback at 16, that's not a necessity. And I would almost guarantee the Eagles are probably going to get a corner and an edge rusher in the first round of the draft.
Edge rusher, yes. The other one could be a safety. They'll get a DB. Might be a cornerback, might be a safety. If you're going to not be able to re-sign either your two starting safeties from this last year from a position of need, I would say a safety is a lot more important than cornerback. They've got 127 cornerbacks on the roster right now.
But they have a better backup safety than all the 77. You can make an argument that Marcus Epps should have been a starting safety this year. When he played, he was better than Anthony Harris and Rodney McLeod, to be honest. But I think he's ready to start. Yeah, if you can get Kyle Hamilton, but they're not going to be able to get Kyle Hamilton. They'll be able to get a corner where they are. So I just think it's more likely. And by the way, I think they bring back one of the two, and it's more likely they bring back Anthony Harris than Rodney McLeod. But that all ships if Jonathan Gannon leaves. Remember, Anthony Harris has a history with Jonathan Gannon for years. Understands his defense better than probably anybody. Is a little bit younger. They'll both be relatively cost effective. I think they'll bring one back. Now, that could change. If Gannon goes to Houston, he might want to bring Anthony Harris with him. All that can change, but I think it's more likely they go corner in the draft than safety simply because there's more options at corner than there would be at safety.
Not bad. The Notre Dame kid is far and away the best safety, but there are some safeties that are worthy of mid-first round where the Eagles are going to be sitting selection. And going back to the running back conversation, you mentioned that you didn't think there was anyone who was going to make a move on a Boston Scott who was a restricted free agent. If you tender him as a sixth, well, then that's something that I think there might be a team out there willing to jump in and get in the fray.
It's a lot of money for a third-string running back. I mean, remember, I said six because he was drafted. It's called an original round tender.
Right.
You're still, getting a significant raise, and there's not, we know the value of this particular position around the league, and nobody's going to look at Boston Scott as a number one, probably not as a number two. So I'm very confident in saying if they tender him, he's going to be back.
There's only one team that scares me, and it's in division. And it's right up the turnpike.
Well, the Giants, yeah.
Because he just owns the New York Giants. So if the New York Giants have a chance to add him to their roster rather than have to face him and keep him out of the end zone, I'm telling you, Boston Scott could end up as a New York Giant.
Well, they got their own issues at running back. I mean, they got to figure out what to do with Saquon Barkley, and I don't. That's turned out to be. That's one I got right. I thought that was a terrible pick at the time. Wasn't an indictment of the kid as more of the value of the position where they took him. It just wasn't going to work out, and it didn't work out. They have to figure out their own issues. But yeah, he's been a Giants killer.
As a guy who actually liked the pick because I thought he was going to be a once every 10-year level talent. It hasn't worked out, but not because of the reason that it was a bad philosophical pick. He can't stay on the field. He can't play. He's always hurt.
Well, that's part of the philosophical reason why nobody thinks you should take a running back. I mean, those guys take a beating, and even if they stay healthy, the shelf life is small. So that's part of the philosophical reason. And nobody wants to pay that second contract to a running back. And when you do, as Dallas did with Ezekiel Elliott, you tend to you have that descent You're paying for what guys did because it's a position where you don't have a long shelf life because you take a beating.
Be very interesting to see. We're looking at running backs at other teams in the division. Could Boston Scott go to the Giants? And what is Ezekiel Elliott going to be the next couple of years with the contract that he got from the Cowboys? Yeah, and see, here's the beauty. Even if you disagree with the philosophy, it's always better to get a player, sorry, players, for cheap than it is to pay above and beyond what they are. And the league has now set the bar. It's just not going to happen. Guys aren't going to get second contracts, which means they go to free agency, and then everybody gets to put their 2 cents in as to what you should pay a high price running back. It's down. It's going to come down. It's going to probably come down even more before it levels off. So, yeah, I kind of feel bad for the running backs around the National Football League just in general. Miles Sanders being one of them. He's not getting a second quarterback contract here in Philadelphia. Not without going free agent, seeing what else is out there, and then coming back to the Eagles and saying, yeah, that contract, which my agent once told you was borderline offensive, yeah, maybe we play for it now. So if you put it back on the table, maybe I'll re-sign it. That's the way that running backs are being handled in the National Football League these days. All right, John McMullen, Jody McDonald, you Mac and Mac Birds 365 guys. Clark Judge from Talk of Fame Network, Hall of Fame voter. He's scheduled to jump aboard with us, jump into our stream. Hope to talk Eagles and the upcoming weekend of great playoff action with Clark Judge of Talk of Fame.